everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 99. God, that reminds me of Mr. Whippy's. How long was it since you had a Mr. Whippy sitting in a park round a lake and you got ice cream all over your nose? Question is, would you get a flake or wouldn't you? Dilemmas. Rachel, would you have a flake?
To get a flake.
You would. Do you get 99s in Australia?
We do, but then I have to say they're not as good as the old Mr. Whippy. And I do have a flake, and I also have the strawberry, like, sugar sauce on it as well. So my Mr. Whippies are extra good. But I remember around Roath Park Lake in Cardiff, we always used to have one when we were growing up, when my gran used to take us out for a walk. So it was very nice. It brings back all those memories.
No. The best thing about 99 when you were younger is that they were 99p. So your mum could give you £1 and you can run off. But I mean, I haven't had a 99 in a while, and I bet they are not 99p.
They're probably about £1.99 now.
Yeah, it's like a Magnum. When I was younger, a Magnum was like 90p, maybe £1.10. They're probably like £3 now.
Over here, a Magnum, if you could buy like a Magnum at a petrol station, you know, like sometimes it's like Friday afternoon and you just need a Magnum. They're about...
You don't need that kind of Magnum, Rachel.
They're just like they're like about $4.90 or something. It's crazy. Were we talking about other Magnums?
No, you were.
No, I was talking about the ice cream, not the cider.
I wasn't even talking about cider.
Anyway, what were you talking about? Magnums of champagne?
Awkward. Anyway, are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. I've had a very busy couple of weeks settling back into things. Now I'm back from my travels. So I've got no real exciting news to report. I'm back grinding and grafting quite hard at the moment. I've got a fair few things to cover over the next couple of months.
Enough of the smart. We've already talked about Magnums and grinding. You've already lowered the tone.
Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, hang on. It is only Tuesday, Benny.
Don't make me laugh too much. I'll cough. I'll freaking choke to death today. The only announcement.
Should we just start again?
No, this is comedy freaking gold. The only announcement from me really is this podcast goes live. Oh my God, where's the date? 21st of August, and 2 days prior to that, the Body Type Nutrition Conference tickets went live. So hopefully, by the time the podcast goes live, there might be some tickets left. We're hoping it'll be an incredible event. It's 2 days. The first day is we're all in a gym. The coaches are there, and they're doing small 8-person workshops on like bench technique. I'm talking about fitness industry, business, and growth, and trying to get what you want. Simon Herbert's talking about the perfect pull-up. Heather Wynn's doing an awesome little workshop on how to become at ease with your own body composition and your own perception of yourself, which I think is going to be an amazing little talk. And then on the Sunday, we're having a full-on conference. There's going to be hundreds of people there. We've all got a 55-minute slot, and we're all doing a different topic. I'm talking about stress and whether we actually know how to deal with it, because I think it's a modern pandemic. The fact that everyone is overly stressed, way more than they even think, even if they're a chilled out kind of person. And that's from, reading and research that I've been doing and personal experimentation. But all the coaches are speaking. It's going to be a huge day. We're giving free lunch, free afternoon snacks, morning snacks. We've got prize giving. We're giving away fucking cool 150 snack packs. We're giving away holidays. We're giving away all sorts of shit. This stuff is big. Anyway, that's the 8th and 9th of November.
For this.
Yeah, well, serves you right for living upside down on the other side of the world.
It's true, I am in an upside down world.
So if people want to get involved in the Body Type Nutrition Conference, it is the 8th and the 9th of November, and tickets are now on sale. Go to bodytypenutrition.co.uk.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty awesome. Cool.
No, the conference sounds awesome.
Yeah, well, both are equally awesome.
Okay, just to clarify.
Yeah, we're just clarifying facts today. Obvious facts, obviously.
Can I just say, on an obvious fact, how smart do I look in my new spectacles?
Yeah, if anyone's watching on YouTube, Rachel is upping her game. Because I'm sitting here looking like a right scruff in my Under Armour pants and my little raggedy hoodie, and she's sitting there looking all catwalk. Whew.
Well, to be fair, I have been in meetings today, and I've got these new glasses, and I mean, I've worn contact lenses since I was about 14 or 15, and I've never been able to find a pair of glasses that actually don't annoy me when they're on. Like, most glasses are just really annoying. But I did find these overseas, and I am starting to wear them more. So the novelty of having new glasses hasn't worn off yet. So give it another few days and I'm sure it will. But at the moment, I'm wearing them all the time.
They're very cool.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I look like a nerd. My IQ has just been raised tenfold.
Yeah, you've got at least an extra 20.
So I should be able to drop some serious knowledge bombs today.
Boom. So talking about today, I wanted to actually raise a little topic without delving into any questions yet, purely because me and my girlfriend were talking about this over the weekend, and it's a topic that we've talked about a couple of times, and I think it's fascinating. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I think it's a bit of a problem, and I think when you're in this situation, it's very hard to know how to deal with it if you don't have any nutritional knowledge, or you don't really explore your own health and body composition very much. And this is the problem with people getting together in a couple, and when they get together, things obviously change within the relationship. Two people that are separate, living their own lives, obviously move a certain way, eat a certain way, and have very much their own habits that may control their weight and their well-being. Now, when a couple gets together, you obviously do more together. You tend to maybe move together, sit together, watch TV, cook the same food, eat the same food. And the problem is, and this is, a core thing of the podcast, a running theme, is that everyone's different nutritionally. And we need to understand that we all have nutritional requirements. Like, if I went out to dinner now with Rachel, we'd eat different things if we wanted to be concerned about our health and our body composition. Rachel would probably eat less. I'd probably eat a bit more. If she's exercised, she might eat, a different something. I might have more protein. So there's always these individual requirements. And when we get into a couple or a relationship, we do things the same. So we cook the same food. And for me, it becomes a problem. And I would be honest in that I would say the correlation is much more in favour of a female putting on weight more often than the man in the relationship. And and this is down to several reasons, and I suppose I wanted to bring it up because I wanted to help people kind of work this kind of stuff out. And it's because I saw a couple again over the weekend, and I was like, oh shit, there's that thing again that we often talk about. The guy stays nice and slim, and the woman sort of seems to slowly put on weight. Now, granted, that woman could have already been overweight, and they could have got into the relationship like that. That's fine, but I personally see this quite often, and I suppose I wanted to bring up some of the reasons. So, a man and a woman, for a start, have, already different caloric demands straight off the bat. Like, a man is quite often has a higher body mass, so he's going to need maybe 20, 30, maybe even often 40% more calorically than female. And if you think we often cook together at home, how often does a guy plate up his food? And I do this with my girlfriend, I'm awful at it. I plate up my food, and then I plate up hers next to mine, and I make it smaller, but still not enough smaller because I'm an animal and I eat a lot. And I have to kind of reality check myself and go, oh no, shit, we'll take a bit off, put a bit more on mine kind of thing. Because straight away there's that difference. Also, if a guy does, if a guy does a bit more activity, more weight training, has a higher metabolic rate, again, food intake is going to be different again. Also, and I think this is a classic, when a man is obviously one of them body types where he can literally just put away junk, crap food, sugar, and just not put on any weight. And for the female in a relationship, it's totally different. Like, if they eat crap food and sugar and stuff, they will slowly put on weight because they just don't have the metabolic capacity to kind of handle and process those kind of calories. And then you've got obviously the different lifestyle elements and the different character traits of that kind of couple. So I think, and I think this is I suppose the painful bit of being in a relationship is you're together, you're in love, it's not always easy to be really honest about the changes that are happening in a relationship. Like, there's that classic that, if a woman says to you, do you think I've put on weight or whatever? And straight away the guy's knee-jerk reaction is, no, oh yeah, perfect. But actually, a stone and a half crept on, and the guy's sitting there biting his finger going, I really want to say something. Like, we fell in love together, and we were, X and Y, and we looked X and Y, and we were attracted to each other because of X and Y. And that is kind of changed. And not to say that that person doesn't love them, but sometimes that attraction will waver because, you fell in love with that person for the attributes that they had at that time. And if someone changes over time, then your potential foundation of that relationship might shift slightly. And I think that is problems that couples encounter when they grow. And I suppose we both need to be reflective of people that are both in relationships to say, actually, things have changed a bit. We need to reflect. We need to be aware of our diet a bit more. We need to be honest within the things that we want to talk about and stuff. Yeah, Rachel, I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that. I just think it's a fascinating topic. I'll be honest, I think I see it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things, we kind of touched on this week, last week, or the episode that we last recorded, and that's that you must be independent in a codependent relationship. So it's cool to be able to do things together and to be able to have fun together. And you do rely on somebody, like when you're in a long-term relationship, whether you're married or, with just a de facto relationship, you do rely on somebody else, and that's dependency on a relationship. And that's cool. It's cool to have that. But you also have to be independent within that relationship for it to be able to continue to grow and to evolve. And part of that involves what we talked about last week or the week before, and that's basically grooming and self-care. And one of those things, unfortunately for us girls, is to be able to say, well, actually, no, like there has to come a time where you say, no, I have to stick to my routine and to stick to what is good for me, because it is too easy to be, to eat what your other half eats, and it's too easy to increase your portion sizes to a point where they become unrealistic. And sometimes I go the other way, and I know it's hard because my other half says to me sometimes, oh, is that all you're eating for dinner? And I'm thinking, and then I second guess myself, and I think, well, actually, is this all I'm eating? But actually, if I look at my caloric intake throughout the day, that's actually all I need for dinner, because the rest of my meals have been bigger throughout the day, and I tend to have a smaller dinner.
Sure.
So, it's one of those things that you as females and as guys in a relationship, you do need to be very aware of what you need and make sure that is specific to you and your needs.
Oh, totally. And once you get into the routine of doing that kind of stuff, like, eating for yourself within the relationship and changing the variables, it will become routine, between you two. It's just actually having the confidence within the framework of a relationship to breach the subject and say, actually, we do need to pay attention to what we're both eating as individuals, but it doesn't mean we can't cook the same thing and, control, what is happening. Like, there'll be quite often we'll cook dinner and it might be like a meat veggie based dish, and if I haven't trained, for example, I don't really have much carbs if I don't train, because I like the vegetable content and I don't really need it. Whereas my girlfriend operates on a much higher carb content in her diet and does really well from that. So we just cook some extra potatoes, or, whatever it might be, roast some sweet potato chips, who knows. And it's just about tweaking the variables, and we go on autopilot with it. We just kind of go, I'll chuck you some potatoes in the pan or whatever, because we know each other's variables and what we have to tweak now. So I suppose all I want to get out of this kind of little foray is, if you're in that situation in your relationship, have the confidence to kind of talk about it, talk about the variables, be honest with each other, help each other with what you want to do, what you want to get. And I just think it will pave the way for better relationships as your relationship ages.
And that's not to say that you can't go out for dinner and have fun and all these kind of things, but it really comes down to portion control, and just sensible, ongoing portion control, and that'll basically survive your relationship as well. If you're going to well, yeah, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. But yeah, that's what you need to do. Individualize things.
Definitely, definitely. I was going to dip into some psychology of the relationship there, and I was.
So was I.
Yeah, I was going to do the same. I was like, oh, should we? Shouldn't we? God, it's be another 2-hour
maybe
podcast.
on another podcast.
Yeah, maybe. But I think we both know where each other was going with that.
Yeah, we do.
Perhaps we'll get someone
all right.
actually qualified one day to come and speak about this stuff.
We should actually, because I think, like, you know, the psychology and the foundations of a solid relationship are really important. So, you know, and I one of the things that I've learned throughout the many years, and I'm older than a lot of people think that I am, is, you know, you do have to be independent in a codependent relationship. So, you know, some people will disagree with me, but that's, you know, that's what I think.
Cool.
Anyway, let's leave it there.
Let's leave it there.
We're not relationship experts. We're fitness, health, and nutrition experts.
And legends. Just putting it out there again. Just putting it out there. Yeah. Right. We've got three key questions today.
They're longer questions, but they're really good ones. So I'll fire away. This is from Pia. I have a question that I would love to get answered either on your podcast or through email. Since I was about 15 years old, I have always felt bloated, and now I'm 27. I've been eating clean, one ingredient foods for about 3 years and trying to figure out why I get bloated. I recently had an intolerance test and there were some minor vitamin deficiencies and some food intolerances, but none of the food that I'm currently eating. I train 4 times a week, 2 leg sessions, 2 strongman sessions, and eat a lot of food, usually up to 3,000 calories a day, high protein, low-ish fat, and medium to high carbs on training days. On non-training days, I eat lower carbs and higher fat. Protein stays the same. I never cut out the carbs completely. I feel this compromises my strength training. I feel like my food doesn't get digested properly when I go to the toilet, and I never feel completely emptied. I suffer from constipation now and again, but I keep my greens high, and this is helping, and it used to be worse. But it still feels like there is something wrong with my stomach. I recently, 7 days ago, started taking betaine HCl and pepsin. I went up to 8 pills and got no burning feeling at all. I've been researching a lot and stumbled upon one of your videos where you tell people not to exceed 5 pills per meal. Stay there until one day you will feel a slight burning feeling in your stomach and then start reducing your pills. My question is this still your opinion? Should I eat 5 pills, 650 milligrams each with pepsin with every protein meal and hope that one day I get a slight burning feeling? I read somewhere that this burning feeling is your gut lining being compromised, leaky gut. Is this true or is it BS? I'm guessing the latter. I really hope that you can answer the question. I've listened to all of your podcasts as well as Phil Looney's, and I absolutely love them. And I can't seem to find the answer to my problem. Keep up the amazing work. Here. Good old Phil Looney, there he is. Friend of the show?
Yeah, friend of the show. Hi, Phil. Not that he'll be listening. You should, Phil.
Phil.
Yeah, Phil, you might learn something, man. Jesus.
Oh, I'll get on to him. We'll get on to him on Twitter later.
Yeah. Wow, that's 12 years with this problem, which is a huge amount of time. So, yeah, God, I really do think it's something to breach now. Just depending on what your goal is within your training, I actually think, and this might depend on your body weight, so I have absolutely no idea. I also have no idea whether you're male or female. Sorry, I'm assuming you're male. I would say that you need to eat maybe more calories. You say you sometimes hit 3,000. I sit on my bum all day and do an hour to an hour and a half of training each day, and I eat 3,400, just to maintain things at top end. So I think you need to be eating a bit more, but I think that your current macronutrient, the way that you change things on training and non-training days is perfect, and I would instill that with most people, to be honest. Now, I think this is where I find the whole nutrition game a little bit painful. Like, us constantly learning is a beautiful thing because it keeps us inspired. But, Pierre, we might be butchering his name, by the way. We'll say it's Pierre.
It might be easy.
Yeah, it's P-I-A. No idea.
Yeah.
We'll say it's Pierre. She's referring to a video I did a long time ago on digestive enzymes. And I need to actually take that down because my opinion's changed quite a lot. And this is what makes you feel bad, because you put information out people trust your information, which is great. I really appreciate that. And then you change your opinion, and it's not like what you were doing before was dangerous or bad, but you're kind of like, shit, there's a load of people out there that were following my advice on good faith, and actually I've kind of changed that thought process. So, hopefully many people that might have watched that video are listening to this and they can hear my opinion change, seeing as this is my most widely listened to platform. And for a while I've been questioning the whole, supplementing with powerful digestive enzymes and betaine HCl, purely because the whole, and I'll be honest, Poliquin popularized this in a big way, and I think brought it to the fitness industry a lot. And for me, you've got to question a protocol where everyone fails. I've never, ever, ever seen anyone pass this test where you keep taking a Pepsin tablet essentially every meal and you keep building up the dose. And I think Poliquin usually says, if you get to 9 or something, he says stop your stomach lining, your acidic load, hydrochloric acid content in your gut is compromised. And if someone's selling supplements and promoting a protocol and literally no one is passing, and no one is, in the health and fitness industry, I don't believe that there's no one that's literally doesn't have normal ecology of the gut. For me, you've got to stand back, and I stood back and I went, do you know what? I don't get this. I can't buy into it. I can't. And it was costing people a fortune, taking 8 tablets of betaine HCl every meal. That's really not cheap. So my personal belief is if people need digestive aid, then I would use a broad spectrum enzyme, one that contains ox bile, which I think is great. If someone doesn't have a pancreas, then that's an essential, ox bile. Next week on the show, I'm interviewing someone that doesn't have pancreatic function, and we talk about supplementing around not having that and him not being able to digest fats and stuff properly, which is a really interesting podcast. So supplement with that, but you only really need 1 tablet per dose. For me, I'm no longer going to advise people in this realm. I don't think I'm nutritionally qualified to do it. I think this is outside my scope. I'm very good at looking at the gut. I like talking about the gut, but in terms of the acidic load and the pH load, I don't think it's my area, and I would say, look, go and speak to a functional medicine practitioner, because they're going to be able to do the right kind of tests. They're going to know the ecology of the environment way, way better. So in my eyes, you are still shooting in the dark with your question. And this is, if you emailed this to me and I replied to it, I would reply by going and saying, look, we've got a great practitioner at Body Type Nutrition. His name's Alex Manos. He's a functional medicine practitioner. He's very good. If there's one guy that could help you work through this and maybe do some functional testing, which you will probably need to do, you'll probably need to get your stool sample analysed, because like you say, you're not breaking down food properly. And I would say you need to go and see this guy. These are the people that are cleverer than us and that are trying to solve very specific problems.
I would say exactly the same thing. And that Pierre, if you didn't catch one of the podcasts a couple of weeks ago, I talked about my problems with digestion and my IBS over the past sort of 17 years or so, and how I manage it now, kind of in a nutshell, really. But this is a really important question and that we've got sent here, because this is really common. But unfortunately, this is where also I draw the line. Whereas, despite the fact that I know a lot about the digestive system and the gut, and as do you, Ben, a lot of the things that we do this is beyond our scope of practice. When we've got somebody who's got a chronic problem, who has probably tried everything that we would already suggest, such as removing the nightshades, removing dairy gluten, etc., removing out the sulfur stuff, your onions, your garlic, etc., etc. Once you've done all of that and you've come full circle, what the hell do you do now? And that is the point where we have to refer out. And I've got some great functional medicine doctors here. You've got Alex in the UK. And I think that this is where it goes beyond personal training. It goes beyond health and fitness. And this is into the medical side of things now, and functional medicine. So, you know, I don't really have anything else to add here other than the fact that I'm the same as you with my recommendation of HCL. I also go with a broad spectrum. I'm big into probiotics as well. You know, apart from that, you know, all of this, there's an underlying cause and an underlying function around it. You know, we don't know anything about this, you know, this person's stress levels. We don't know anything about that. And one thing that was taught to me by a gastroenterologist, actually in the UK, I've mentioned him before on the show. His name's Professor Peter Warwell. He's in Manchester, and he specialises in IBS. He said to me, you've got to think of these things as on a scale of 1 to 100. So IBS, and this sounds like an IBS case, it's multifactorial. So, for example, it could be stress, it could be food, it could be anything. So you look at things on a scale of 1 to 100. Now, at any given time in your life, so say, for example, we take, you know, this month, and I'll talk about myself because it's easy. Where has my stress levels been this month? And actually, they haven't been too high. So they're probably on about a 30 out of 100. And they have been way up to sort of 90 out of 100. Whereas my nutrition this month, and if I look at that, then it's, say, probably about a 20. So it's very low stress. So already I'm up to about 50 out of 100, just on a point scale. If I add in anything else, it's just going to be adding onto the scale up to 100, right? So if I've got very high levels of stress, I might be riding at about an 80% stress level, and then I'm not preparing my food and my sleep is compromised because I've got a lot of projects on the go or whatever. That can soon scale over 100, and I know that that's when my gut issues start getting unbearable and unmanageable. So as much as possible, I think this is a good scale to work on, of identify all of these areas in your life which are adding basically overall stress and tipping you over that edge. So it's definitely something to look at. So making sure that your nutrition is under control, your stress is under control, and everything as best possible is kept under that 100 scale. And your 100 being the marker where your symptoms become intolerable and unbearable.
I agree. It's so multifactorial, and we all know people that their IBS is triggered to their emotions and their stress. Their IBS is linked to gluten and dairy. Their IBS is linked to environmental toxins. So, you know, that's the problem why you need to get it investigated properly. And that's why as well we need to implore with everyone that we look at the sleep thing, we look at the stress thing, we look at the toxin load thing, because these are things that you can easily work on yourself at home, like and knowledge that you're going to have picked up from this podcast. So once you nail out or rule out these kind of areas, you then can go, well, really, the only thing left is some underlying stuff in my diet and maybe potential pathogen, parasite, fungus, something like that. So then at least you've already narrowed it down, and you can go to a practitioner. It's going to cost you less money. You can seek out the right kind of person because you're already halfway there. So that's why, you know, exploring a lot of this stuff is very important yourself first. But you know, we're not qualified here, or no, I've came to the conclusion that I'm not qualified enough to focus in this area, and exactly why I said, well, I'm never going to specialise in this area because I specialise in other areas. So I'm going to bring someone on board my team that can help you with this kind of stuff. And yes, it's going to cost you more. Like there's no way we can coat that kind of stuff. Functional medicine practitioners are very highly qualified people. They've studied for years and years and years to get specialist knowledge in multiple areas. They're kind of a specialist but a jack of all trades at the same time, because they're like a GP. They need to know an awful lot about an awful lot of stuff. And you know, this is why unfortunately we need testing. Like I've had clients that I've had for years and years and years, and I've gone, do you know what? We've been working on this for a while. I still don't know what's going on. I'm going to refer you out, but I'm going to warn you that you're going to need to pay a couple of £100, get some tests done, find out what's happening under the hood. And I've done it with nearly all my family members. Like as soon as Alex came on board, I got some testing with myself because there was a few things I was like, do you know what? This is good, but I want to find out if there's a little bit more I can do. We did some testing on my girlfriend. We did some testing on my mum. And all the time, we found out some incredibly fascinating stuff. A couple of my coaches at Body Type Nutrition have just got some testing done. One of the guys got loads of tests done, and we found out fascinating stuff. It was absolutely incredible because we were like, you know, if we hadn't got testing, we just never would have thought of that. And there's been so many like missing links that we've found out with our own health where we've gone, wow, okay, that would explain that. But there wasn't any real adverse symptomology. There was just a non-optimal output from certain pathways in the body. And I just think it's fascinating. Like, we've already got plenty of, we'll call them geeks, that have kind of signed up to get some help off Alex purely because they've gone, I've reached this far in my health journey, I want a little bit more. So I'm going to have a little root around under the hood, see if I can connect some dots and just optimize a few things.
Awesome. I think the moral of this story is never stop looking.
No, because there'll always be some answers. The problem is you just got to find the right person that can guide you to that answer. And sometimes that can be the hard battle. And I think that's where my rant come a couple of months ago about physios and really choosing a good physio.
Oh, yes.
This is the same kind of topic. Like if you go to a £30 an hour nutritionist, chances are they're never going to find the root cause of this problem. You go to a 80, 90, 100, £150 nutritionist an hour, they're going to hit the money a lot quicker because their knowledge is just a lot vaster. And the chances are you will spend less money going to someone that is high quality because they'll be able to do it in an instant. Like a good physio, you'll lie down on the couch, they'll assess, they'll manipulate, they'll get out the adhesion, and you'll walk away with a 60% pain reduction on the day. Whereas a bad physio will do a little bit, send you away with exercises, get you in next week, yada, yada, yada. So I think the cost economy there is actually very poor, and it's not always cheap is best, which I had a good moan about on Facebook this week.
Absolutely. You know what they say, buy cheap, buy twice. Exactly. So spend the money and get it done the first time. Okay, next question.
Yes.
Hi Ben, I've recently been tracking my macros properly instead of eyeballing to see what kind of physique I can achieve.
Sorry, before we carry on, I probably should let people know of the link, because if Pierre wants to go and look at it, you'll need to go to bodytypenutrition.co.uk and then click on the lab. And the lab is the place where you can get any kind of testing that you might want done. Sorry, Rachel, carry on.
Cool. That's only for people in the UK now, isn't it? That's only available for the UK people.
No, we can do international as well.
You can you?
Yeah,
okay.
we actually
That's good to know.
We send a lot of our tests off to America just because the labs are a lot better in America. They have more advanced testing. So
Cool.
Many people's poo with the stool test, they all get shipped off to America and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. International. Good to hear. Okay. Hi Ben, and this question is from Keith. Hi Ben, I recently started tracking my macros properly instead of eyeballing it to see what kind of physique I can achieve through what I've learned from your show. I'm 6'1" and weigh 207 pounds. I'm kind of chubby, and when I say chubby, I'm probably in the best shape of my life so far, and I'm probably sitting around 15% body fat at a guesstimate. I go to the gym 4 days a week and do an upper-lower split. I also work at a bank, so I'm quite sedentary, but I do very intense training in the gym. After reading an article by Lyle McDonald talking about protein requirements, it stated that he puts people on as high as 1.5 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I also recently read a link on a post by Phil Graham explaining they put people up to 4 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, and both had no effect on body fat gain. So while I put myself hypocaloric, eating a huge 310 grams of protein, 62 grams of carbs, and 110 grams of fats, such low carb because I really don't function well on them from being obese at such a young age. I believe I keep up my carbs around post-workout, and I find that my muscles are getting fuller, and I'm also leaning out as well. So my question is this to gluconeogenesis, and my question is this to gluconeogenesis, and my second question is that how do I slowly incorporate carbs into my diet again so my body is much better at using them as a fuel source instead of feeling slow and sluggish? The reason I want to reintroduce them is that when I reach my ideal body fat percentage, I want to be walking around at and keeping slightly elevated blood sugars through complex carbs, but I also don't want the fat boy bulk. Keep up the good work, mate. You're making my journey a lot more enjoyable. Thanks from Belfast. I feel I should note that my type of training is hypertrophy, time and attention aiming at 60 seconds of tension per set, changing my rep range between the 2 days to alternate muscle recruitment. Keith.
So there's some interesting information here, and the reason why I didn't actually reword any of his questions, because some of his questions for me didn't make sense, is that for me it shows that if you don't understand an area properly, you really need to go away and kind of understand it. You know, Keith, he mentions a comment where he says, I want to walk around with keeping slightly elevated blood sugar levels through complex carbs. Now, I would straight away question your knowledge and say, what is your thought process behind doing this? Why do you want elevated blood sugar levels? You don't want elevated blood sugar levels, you just want normal blood sugar levels. And your body will regulate blood sugar levels very intelligently, regardless of what foods you put in the tank. Now, we know that if we have well-balanced meals, it has protein and it has fat, it will slow down digestion, it will control blood sugar level better. But you don't need elevated blood sugars excuse me, for any particular reason. Now, obviously, as you get leaner, it's great to have a slightly higher carb intake, because your carbs intake are pretty low at the moment, 62, purely for 2 reasons. One, the chances are you'll probably perform better in the gym because you'll have more available muscle glycogen through simple restoration over the course of a 24-hour period. And also, it enables you to have more diet flexibility. It's very hard to be flexible with your diet when you follow such a low carb approach currently. So if I, eat, let's say I eat 50 grams of carbs a day, and I eat that most of the week, and then I go out on a Friday and I go out on a Saturday, and I want some chips, I want some pasta, I want some potato, whatever it is, and I'm going to get a high carb load. Now, whether or not I go over my calories or not, the chances are I'm not going to look or feel as good the next day. Like, I'll bring in some fluid because my body is just not used to handling that level of carbohydrate, and it has to put it there. And when we take on board carbs, we take on board extra fluid to deal with that kind of carbohydrate. So you can often wake up the next day feeling a little bit just feeling a little bit squidgy, a little bit softer, like your kind of muscle definition is sort of glazed over slightly. So your key question is how do you build up the carbs back into your diet? Well, the answer is slowly. You're at 62 grams at the moment. So 1 week, week 1, you go up to 75 grams. Week 2, you go up to 90 grams. Week 3, you go up to 105 grams. And you just keep maybe taking 10, 15 gram increments till you get up to a level where you're probably about 150 to 230 grams across the course of a day, depending on training load and intensity. I think that would be a good intake for many people. It's going to give you some good diet flexibility. And then the chances are you're probably going to drop a fair amount of those calories from protein. Your protein doesn't need to be that high. But coming on to that point, there is some very new recent research, and it is interesting. So it does make you think and question the whole calorie equation and how calories are used in the body, because we know that if you take on board protein, you will use up a certain amount of calories digesting that protein. So yes, protein is around 4 calories per gram, but it's probably closer to 2.8 to 3.2 because of the thermic effect of protein. So that still means that there's kind of 2.8 to 3.2 calories per gram extra. So if we're in a hyper calorie state and we're eating, let's say, an extra 5, 6, 800 calories from protein, there is still excess calories. But recent research has shown that these excess calories aren't actually being converted into fats over a long period of time. So it does lead us to start to question what is happening with these calories. So both research and anecdotal is showing that very high protein intakes aren't leading to fat gain. I'm not going to hypothesize on an answer. I'm just going to say that we don't really know yet. The research hasn't really been explored properly, and other practitioners that are researching this area, from what I've read and what I believe, that they don't really know either. And we're really only at the first stage of research to kind of say, okay, well, we've seen this. Now we need to try and observe why we are seeing this. So you're correct. that, you know, Phil Graham and other practitioners are looking at this research and putting people on very high protein intakes, which, if you think about it, if you want someone to lose weight and you can get them to eat a slightly hypercaloric intake or a maintenance intake and get them to eat a very high protein intake, which makes them feel very satisfied, it now becomes very easy to diet because you can still eat a lot of food volume but still create a net calorie loss.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting. So yeah, I think I nailed all his questions there. So yeah,
I have nothing further to add.
Okay, this is good.
And sometimes, like, I'll just clarify here that I'm not terrible at reading out loud. So just sometimes the way that emails are worded, they don't flow properly, so they just don't flow off my tongue as
I
well
had to
as
do a lot
should.
of editing to that email.
Pardon?
I had to do a lot of editing to that email. It was was broken up all over the place. So Keith, if you do write into the podcast again, please do articulate your sentences, sir. Please do use full stops and commas. It does help one read an email.
Thank you. And anyone who actually writes in, please make sure that your English is good.
Yeah,
that would be very much appreciated.
It helps us out a lot.
Because I don't like reading at the best of times. So when I have to try and interpret something as well, it makes things very difficult. Anyway, next question. And this question is from Ross. Roz or Ross. I think it's Ross. R-O-S. So, hi Ben and Rachel. I hope you're both wonderfully well. I have a question regarding training whilst healing past mistakes and travelling. I'm 31 and I have been into sport and exercise since I was 8. I spent 20 years as a kayaker, progressing to international level, training twice a day from the ages of 14 to 27. Anyway, towards the end of my time in professional sports, I was told to lose weight. I guess you can imagine how this went down. Carbs were cut and long runs were taken up. I know, it's the worst thing that I could have done. About the same time, I started to get GI problems and eventually got diagnosed with celiac disease. My periods also stopped and have not come back, even 6 years on. Blood tests reveal FSH, LH and TSH are fine, but I have very low estrogen and progesterone levels. I did lose a lot of weight, about 3 stone, but I took it too far before I pulled myself together. Ever since then, I have been on a journey to discover what works for me, which has eventually led me to studying a part-time degree in nutrition alongside my real work. I now know that I did a lot of damage to myself during the years, limiting my calories and overtraining. For example, I took up triathlons as relaxation after quitting kayaking. Until recently, I was training 6 times a week, a mixture of 1 hour heavyweight strength training sessions, 30-minute circuit sessions, and swimming and running. I was not seeing any results, and I still hold weight around my love handles, lower back and thighs. I weigh around 50 kilos and I'm 158 centimeters tall. I would like to think my nutritional knowledge means that I eat very well. For example, I've experimented with different ratios of carbs, fats, and proteins, different timings of these, and eliminating foods, dairy, and because I realized it wasn't agreeing with me. On top of all this training, my job is running corporate training courses around the world, which means for the last 18 months, I've spent 25 weeks a year on the road. This leads me to not getting enough consistency in the type of training and also spending a lot of time dealing with jet lag. This finally led to me becoming completely exhausted after my last trip and totally wiped out for 2 weeks and unable to train or work properly. So now, having taken a long, hard look at what I'm doing to myself, my goal is to correct all of these mistakes and get my hormones back in check. This leads me to ask 3 questions. How little is too little when trying to reset and heal hormones? I've taken my training down to 2 30-minute weighted circuit classes a week, 1 high-intensity sprint circuit, and 1 45-minute swim. Plus, I walk and cycle everywhere as I have no car. This feels very minimal, and I'm worried that I'm being too cautious, but I'm also aware that my bar is set very high. I take L-glutamine, fish oil, chelated minerals, an omega antioxidant, and a probiotic to heal my gut from celiac and dairy intolerance. Anything else different that you would recommend? And 3, what advice would you have for keeping consistency whilst I'm traveling? I always check out the hotel's gym facilities before I go, and I never travel without my kit, so I can fit in a session or a swim where possible. However, sometimes this does mean getting up at 5:30 a.m. and I'm very aware of this lack of sleep, what this lack of sleep is doing to my adrenals or cortisol levels. I'm never sure where the balance lies between slacking off training and looking after my well-being. I travel with a blender and a half suitcase full of protein powder, seeds and nuts, etc., so that I can make my own breakfast and snacks if necessary. So I think my food stays good whilst I'm away. I'm also very regimented on what I order for dinners. Fish, steak, lots of vegetables or salad, and sometimes potatoes or rice. Any other thoughts you have on this would be much appreciated. I know you have covered a lot about us crazy over-exercising, under-eating women, but I would love to learn some more tricks to help me. Thank you so much in advance for your time to answer this.
Yeah, now I think this is an interesting one, and I left it in here because it is slightly different to, what we've previously covered. And a long time ago I said, look, no more questions like this because we've beaten the bat to death. But I thought this was interesting because this ties in with the whole kind of like the psychological aspect of, why you do things and the things that you need to do to really balance out your training and your stress and stuff. And the reason why I bring this up is because I think the problem with Ross or Ross's situation is her character and her background. So I can, I'd like to think that my guess is correct in that Ross is a very driven person. She's got a background of athletics. She's used to being successful. She doesn't want to lose that success. If she loses it or loses something, she feels like she's failing in some way because she's got to let something go for something else to have had some kind of benefit. And I think this is the very thing that's holding Ross back in making any kind of progress. And this is why I think a coach for Ross would be really good. Ross doesn't need a nutritional coach. She could probably pick up a few tips and all this kind of stuff. But I think Ross could really do with someone that just says, no, you're not doing that. You need to do this. You don't need to do that. You need to do this at this time. You need to stop thinking about that, purely because I think Ross needs someone potentially to contextualize her thoughts and almost just needs someone to bounce off. And it wouldn't be that labour intensive for the coach. And I make that sound like a bad thing, but sometimes in coaching, it's just the little things that make the biggest difference. Like literally just telling someone, no, this is what you can't do. So the thing that I think will be a case with Ross is that everything that she does is to quite a high intensity. So like 2 times 30-minute weighted circuit sessions, I bet they're high intensity. I bet that sprint session is high intensity. I bet that swim is high intensity. Now that's 4 high intensity sessions in a week. And then she's swimming running, biking, walking everywhere. So actually it's still a lot of training volume on top of what I can imagine is a highly stressed environment, or not highly stressed but highly pressured, working in the corporate events world. You've got people that are high earners and successful looking at you to deliver a day that really essentially delivers. Like you're under pressure. So I think the problem is your stress tank is just maxed out. And I think what you probably don't want to lose is actually your current body composition. So for me, this is the solution I would give you if I was your coach. I would say, let's ditch a lot of the training, okay? Let's ditch all the high intensity stuff. If you want to maintain your body composition and you're biking and walking everywhere, that will take care of your cardiovascular fitness. Like bike everywhere, walk everywhere, I don't mind. But when it comes to the gym, I just want you in the gym twice a week. And to maintain your current body composition, I just want you to do single set exercises. So very low stress. I just want you to squat. I want you to bench press. I want you to do some chin-ups, some press-ups, some hip drives, some lunges, single set, not working up too much of a stress, not getting too out of breath. And all I would do is make your training maintain what you have. And then that would free up more of your time. And now you can focus on walking, meditating, doing a yoga class, doing something that takes your mind off your very stressful environment, I would probably, and this is the number one supplement I'd recommend for you, I would recommend that you take some adaptogens. Now, you've already got hold of some Dietary supplements, so I would recommend that you take Adraset from Dietary. This is a multi-spectrum and adaptogen blend, which will help you deal with your environment. And then, I'll be honest, you need to do this for quite some time. I think you need to do this for like minimum 6 months to allow your body to start to heal itself. I don't know if you've had any testing done. I might recommend that you find someone to do some testing, like Alex at the lab, someone else, work with a practitioner one-to-one, whatever it might be. You've obviously had some testing done to find out that your estrogen and progesterone was low. I can imagine you did this through the traditional medical community in the UK or maybe somewhere else. If you did, you might not know enough to say why your estrogen is low or why your progesterone is low. So you might actually need to get a better blood test done to find out what you need to change and what you need to supplement with to correct the pathways that are weak. And that is the problem with the medical tests, is they kind of go, your estrogen's low. And you go, cool, what do I do to change that? And they kind of like, we don't know, but your estrogen's low, so good luck. And it's kind of a bit of a problem because they just don't test some of the other variables. So you might need extra testing done, but I still think you need to scale it back more. Like, you've scaled it back, you're not doing as much training, but the situation still isn't resolving itself. So to me, it's a glaring indication that you need to do more to go into, we call it working in rather than working out. You need to work into your psyche, your soul, rebalance things, work at the stress rather than just working out. And I can imagine you find working out as a great form of meditation. You know, weight training for me is a form of meditation. I get in the gym, I forget everything. You know, I enjoy training my workout partner, etc. You know, you need to find a better source of working in and getting that kind of meditative state.
I 100% agree. And Roz, if I was your coach, I would be doing exactly the same with you. I would be saying no. I would be giving you some reassurance that it's okay to pull back. I've been there and I've done it. And I did this when I was stage 3 adrenal fatigue when I was 21. So I was lucky that I learned at a very young age. And it doesn't mean that I don't push boundaries now, because I do. So I still clearly haven't learned. But, you know, when you're of this personality type where you're a go-getter and you want to do it all, you need the reassurance of a good coach to pull you into line, to say no to you and say it is okay to do less. That is the number one thing that you've got to get from this. It is okay to do less, and it is of a massive benefit to you to do less. And all I'll ask you is, what you're currently doing is not working for you. So it must change, and it must change drastically. And the second thing is, find a hobby that doesn't involve physical activity. And although we're health and fitness experts on the show, and we talk a lot about health and fitness and training and getting people active, when we're dealing with somebody like Roz, which is a small percentage of the population, but they are out there, pull back and find an activity or hobby. What do you do for fun that isn't a physical activity? And that's something that perhaps, you know, you should look into. That's something a little bit different that doesn't involve training and getting sweaty. Well, it could involve getting sweaty, but not training.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me just clarify that.
Yeah.
So yoga's a great one. And you know what? Like, I've started yoga again now over the past 3 weeks, and it's bloody hard work. Like, if you go to a good yoga class and you get your breathing and all that stuff right. I'm not a yogi, but I try. And so that's what I'm doing for fun at the moment, and trying really hard. But if you get your breathing right, yoga's hard and it's challenging, and it's mentally, for me, it's mentally challenging enough. So, you know, perhaps something like that would be beneficial.
Really silly, but one of my favourite ways to switch off is actually just to go to the cinema. And the reason why I love the cinema is because you can't think of anything else. All you can think about is the experience that's in front of you. You sit down, I switch off for like 2 hours, I embrace myself in a movie, and I come out and I haven't thought of anything else. My mind hasn't even, and for me it's different to TV, because TV, you're at home, you've got distractions, you've got food, the kettle, your phone, your iPad, whatever. Whereas you go to the cinema with a buddy, all you do is you just sit and absorb the film. And I usually go once a week, quite often on a Wednesday. I tend to have a half day on a Wednesday. I get a massage. I go and get some food. We go to the gym. We then get some food, and we go to the cinema and stuff on a Wednesday. It's kind of my midweek break, and I love it because I can't think of anything. It's impossible.
And that's great, and it's something that I have to incorporate more into my life, I suppose, is realizing that I still feel guilty if I'm not working like long hours Monday through Friday. And so I have that personality which is similar to Roz, where unless it's work, I don't feel like I'm being productive and I don't feel like I'm doing anything. But actually, I also know that when I'm coaching somebody else, I tell them that it's okay to have some time off during the week. If you work hard, it's okay to do that, and it's actually makes you more productive during the week. But so going back to Roz's question, I can completely relate to what she's trying to achieve, but we have to learn more from you, Benny, and just take some time out and go to the movies midweek.
Definitely, and it's something that I've taught myself from being in the exact same situation as you and Roz. But I've learned that why do we do the things in life that we do? There's no point being driven without the reason you're doing things to be driven. Like you are driven to create a better life for yourself, to create more flexibility, to create financial security, all that kind of stuff. So when it takes a strong person to stand back, even when you're getting close to that point, and say, everything that you set out to do, by the way, you've done it. Like you're kind of getting there. Like this is when you can scale back a bit. You can almost buy back a bit of your time. You can take a day off whenever you like, because you're in a position like your finances aren't going to suffer, the world isn't going to break down, your business isn't going to burn, by taking a day off. And it's just a place that we all need to get to. But you also need to be very self-reflective and kind of tell yourself it's actually okay.
And one thing that I've learned, actually, we had this conversation in February when you were over, where we were lying on Bondi Beach and we were having a discussion about work and, long hours and everything. And you said to me, I said to you, I told you my quote for the year, and then you told me yours, and your quote for the year was, "There's always tomorrow." And I was like, that's a really good phrase. And so I've kind of adapted that into what I do since February is there's always tomorrow, because I've always worked on it has to be done right now scenario, which is why, I work very hard. I do get a lot done, but at the same time, it's also very stressful, and it creates a very stressful environment to work in, and it's all self-manifested. So taking that one phrase, there's always tomorrow, and a lot of things can be done tomorrow.
It's very self-liberating, that phrase, for me, and that's why it's been my mantra all year. Like, I'm the only person that puts pressure on myself. Like, no one else is allowed to put pressure on me, because in my world, I run my own companies, I have staff, etc., etc. So anyone that needs kind of my time needs to almost wait for it. Like I've only got so much, and there's only so many hours in the day. So if someone emails me and I see that email and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I need to get that done for that person, I'm like, hang on, they need that off me. So they need to wait for my time. So I need to stand there and go, it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And everything can always wait till tomorrow. I am at the mindset that if I'm free and I'm doing things and I'm working, I'll do it right now. You'll email me, I'll see it, we'll do. Yeah, I'm on it, I'm doing it. But when I'm off duty, I'm off duty. Like, and people will always wait. And what's the worst case scenario? You might miss a bit of a deadline. The email can go out tomorrow. Nothing is going to really kind of burn down and self-implode. And we only ever put this pressure on ourselves. So we just need to find a strategy, or for me, a liberating phase that gets me out of that expectation of myself.
100%. And as when we're all in business for ourselves and run our own businesses, you're right, the only people putting pressure on us is ourselves.
Definitely. And don't get me wrong, there's a very fine line of when you do this and when you don't. When you're starting a business, there's a lot of hard work. Like,
you have to graft and grind, right?
Yeah. The question that we're not actually going to get to this episode, because the podcast has already been an hour, we'll answer it next time, was about, Ben, how did you get to where you are in the fitness industry in terms of the steps that you took? And he asked the same question of Rachel. And I'll be brutally honest, it was a lot of hard work. I've written an awful lot of blogs, I've done an awful lot of videos, I've done an awful lot of networking and talking and conversing and all the rest of it. But once you get past that point and you're on your journey to where you want to get to, you can step back. Like, you're already, that stuff won't come crumbling down. The hard work will not be undone. So you need to know when to realign your goals and realign your energy so that you're not always on that perpetual hamster wheel.
Wise words, Benny. Very wise words. But yes, there's nothing short of hard work, is there?
So people, you can nick my mantra because I think it's very empowering. There's always tomorrow. So that leads us to wrap up the show. Rachel, thank you very much for joining me again. It's always an honour.
Thank you for having me, Benny. It's been a more serious show today. We haven't been comedians as usual. I think we're funny. I think we're funny.
I think I'm funny, so that's all that really counts. If you enjoyed the show, please do me and Rachel both the honour of sharing it online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever your chosen platform is. Help us spread this word. If you haven't left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, please do so. If you'd like to join me and all the Body Type Nutrition team in November, get online now. Go to bodytypenutrition.co.uk and get a seminar ticket. We've only got 300. I expect them to sell out. It's going to be an incredible day of learning. There's going to be so much opportunity for networking, prize. There's all sorts of stuff. It's going to be a great day. And I will be interviewing Ben Mudge next week, who's a sufferer of cystic fibrosis, but also a physique athlete. Incredible show next week. I've already recorded it. Until next time, that's ciao from me.
And it's ciao from me.
Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 98. We're closing in on the 100. Mr. Mark Coles from M10 Fitness is back. Mark, hello.